Welcome back to the Following Films podcast. I'm your host, Chris Maynard, and today we're talking about a show that probably sounds like a strange candidate for a modern streaming reboot, until you actually look at how they made it. When Netflix announced a new take on Little House on the Prairie, a lot of people reasonably expected a soft, nostalgic retread of the 1970s TV series. Instead, the 2026 reboot dropped last month, and it's a completely different beast. It pulls much closer to the raw, gritty reality of the original books than the old show ever did. It already got picked up for a second season, and a huge reason the series hits the way it does comes down to how it looks. My guest today is cinematographer C. Kim Miles, who shot 4 of the 8 episodes this season. If you follow Kim's work, he has this adapt and survive approach that shouldn't surprise you. He lends The Brother's Son for Netflix, shot the Apple TV Plus documentary Still a Michael J. Fox Movie, which earned him an Emmy nomination, and worked on projects like Yellow Jackets, Lost Ollie, and Robert Zemeckis' Project Blue Book. He knows how to ground large-scale, difficult productions in real human texture. We talk about building the look of the new series, fighting the elements, and what it actually takes to make a pioneer story feel dangerous again. Before we jump in, do me a quick favor. If you enjoy the show, take a few seconds to leave us a review on whatever app you're listening to us on, and hit the subscribe button. It feels so goofy to say hit that subscribe button, like I'm going to say smash that subscribe button like it was 2015 or something like that. I don't know, but here I am. I'm 50 now. I'm old. I have no idea what I'm doing. That genuinely helps us and get in front of more people. Here's my conversation with C. Kim Miles. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. Thank you again for taking the time to do this, man.
Not at all. Not at all. I was enjoying looking at your listening to your podcast and stuff. It's great. It's great. Good fun.
Oh, and you still agreed to do this after listening to it. So you're a brave soul,
I wouldn't say that. Goodness gracious. Where are you located?
I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, you're in Tucson. Oh, I have cousins that live in Tucson.
Really?
Gosh, that I haven't seen in decades. Martha Adair is a second cousin. She's probably, gosh, in her 90s by now. She used to run the Adair Funeral Home on North Dodge.
Oh, wow. I think I know. I think I know what that is. Yes, absolutely. It's a small world, man.
Yeah, we're the undertakers of Tucson.
Okay, so how do you go from a line of undertakers to
well, she was their family was the outliers. My dad's family was actually livestock farmers. They were blue ribbon mule farmers from Missouri, just about 50 miles east of Kansas City. So yeah,
you can tell that's where you're really from because of how you pronounce it. So only people that are actually from Missouri say Missouri. So.
Right. Well, MYSSOUR, right? That's.
I guess you can file that next to if you can spell Albuquerque without looking up, then you probably are from there.
That's right. Oh, good stuff.
Man, thank you so much for doing this, and congrats on the show. This is quite an undertaking. Anytime you're doing a period piece like this, it's got to be intimidating. But then to do one that has such, I don't know, it has such a history, where at least for me, I'm 50, just turned 50 this weekend. I don't remember a time in my life without Little House on the Prairie. So it's left a big cultural footprint for people my age. So how was it to step into some, well-known shoes, I guess?
Yeah, well, it was. I grew up so further to my story, my dad moved from the Midwest to Malaya back in the 1950s. So I grew up in Malaysia, and
oh wow,
we had 3 channels, one of which was in English, and Little House on the Prairie was one of the shows that was deemed appropriate for Malaysian audiences at the time. So I grew up with it also. It was neat. I'd worked with Joy Gorman on an Apple TV show called Home Before Dark before. So when I heard that she was doing this, I thought, gosh, I should check in and see how it's going. And it was great. I was super excited, and I kept making references to the original show in my interview with Rebecca daughter home and stuff, and then I beg your pardon, Rebecca Sonnenschein.
Hmm.
And only to find out later that it had nothing really to do with the original series, and
Yep.
it was more of a retelling or a revisit of the books rather than the original television series. So I kind of put my foot in my mouth a little bit there, but it was good, and like you say, it because the show was so omnipresent in the 1970s and 80s, it left such a big cultural mark on all of us that you couldn't help but have a baseline to start from, and
Sure.
I watched my wife and I watched the whole run of all 9 seasons of it before I went to Winnipeg anyway, and it was great. It's so rare that you get these kind of wholesome, not to sound cliche, but these family values. It's something that you
Hmm.
can actually gather the whole family around and sit down and watch without having fear of what you're going to encounter for the kids and stuff. So from that perspective, it was great. It's as I get older, I find that I keep finding myself in these moments where I'm doing shows or I'm being entrusted with stuff that I grew up with, or working with people that I that I
Yeah.
always looked up to. So it's an interesting process always every time, to kind of try to find a way to step into those shoes and make it your own. And there were 2 other DPs, of course. There was Ari Wegner, who shot the pilot, and Nate Goodman, who alternated with me on the rest of the series. So it was an interesting also to kind of work with them and find a real voice that we could all share, in making the show. And I've been doing TV for a long time, and although this isn't TV, I suppose, but there's always, this I wouldn't say undertone of tension, but there's always this, there's another DP doing their thing and I'm doing
Of
my thing,
course.
and
Yeah.
what are those things going to be like? But I have to say that this was the most collaborative experience that I've ever had on any show between myself and the other DPs, and we had such a great time right from day one, getting to know one another and getting to kind of discover the visual language of the show together. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of weight on the shoulders, and Rebecca takes the show very seriously. And the themes therein, are very important to her. So there was a lot of responsibility, I think, but it turned out to be a lot of fun to do.
Well, it's you bring up a really good point with this because this is something where you have to have a visual tone that's consistent throughout. You can't just show
Yeah,
up and say, "Okay, I'm doing Badlands," and on this
yeah,
one, this is what I want to do.
that's
Because when
good.
I think of Prairie, that's what I have to do. If it doesn't fit,
Yeah,
then it just
yeah,
doesn't make sense. So, but you,
yeah.
I assume, have to find space to express yourself through that within those kind of parameters that have been defined or are being defined with you and the other DPs.
Yeah, yeah, and we had the really great bonus of being able to have conversations well before the pilot even went to camera. So with that process of collaborating amongst us had already started and already been in effect for a few weeks before episode 1 shot. So it was nice to be already having conversations about the look and feel and how we wanted to treat things like aspect ratio and lensing and that sort of thing to really find that voice that the show needed, without
Yeah.
treading on what the old show was and trying not to harken back to some of the lighting choices that were made in the
Well,
original series.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a great process to collaborate with everybody. At first at distance, over Zoom, we would have conversations, and then eventually we were all 3 of us were in town together, and finally, getting to do things. So it was a lot of fun for sure.
So, how is it shooting with this much natural light? Because you have outdoors, you're shooting a lot, and then you have indoors where it's these prairie homes where you have the light that's available, small window, maybe some candles, fireplace,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So if you're telling something that's going to be, are you going for something here that is more impressionistic, or where you're trying to get there? Or are you trying to be very strict around there has to be the source for this light?
Yeah, I think kind of a combination of the two. The the natural light is always fun to work with. Always trying, finding ways to shape that outside. We ended up using an awful lot of negative fill when we were doing exterior locations, just to take stray light away from the fill side of actors' faces and giving us some contrast. Luke Bracey, that plays Charles, was absolutely transfixed with all this. He's like, he's Australian, and he was like, what's all this about? And I'm like, oh, it's just to help us with contrast and to reduce the amount of daylight that's blasting everywhere. And he goes, oh, I've never seen this before. He goes, it's really good, because we always had lifts with solids on them and stuff. And he said, it's kind of interesting, because it gives you, as an actor, it gives you a bit of a proscenium to play towards. He goes, when I look up, I know that that's where the camera is, where the blacks are. So he goes, it gives us an interesting dynamic for the cast. So that was one of the things that I thought was interesting. And then in terms of interiors, there wasn't a lot of, we couldn't just flick on a light switch and get away with stuff. So there was a lot of careful conversation with Jonah Markowitz, our production designer, about finding that balance between being authentic to the construction methodologies of these log homes, and finding a way to get enough light into the buildings. The windows tended to be, I think in the first drawings, the windows in the cabin were 18 or 20 inches by 18 inches, and there was only two of them. And I'm looking at these drawings and going, how do I have this conversation with Jonah about? And then, of course, you get and you start looking at the way they're constructed, and they're built of these logs that are this big around. And they were actually building them out of logs, and on stage they were trying to be true to the size of the logs with all the fake stuff. And so now not only is the window 20 by 20, now you've got the windows are also this deep. So you don't have a chance to get a light that isn't in the shot through that window. Yeah. So we managed to find a compromise a little bit creatively to expand the windows a little bit and get light in there, But no, I was personally, I was being very conscious of trying to stay motivated by the windows and trying not to introduce any stray light, any movie light. I'm not a huge fan of backlighting actors in interiors if it doesn't sort of happen naturally. It just feels very studio-like to me. So we were always trying to stage things and trying to block things in such a way that actors would, happen to stand by a window for an important line, or position themselves against some depth in the background, or maybe we could talk the cast into leaving the door open when they walk in, that kind of thing. So it was always a balancing act of how do we keep enough light on their faces, for the genre, and still let it be honest. And luckily, Rebecca was on board very early with keeping it honest and just saying, hey, you know what? If it plays in silhouette from time to time, that's what happens. So we tried to embrace that and not do it too much, but to allow it to sort of breathe a little bit. And that, I think that's one of the successes of how it came together.
Yeah, I could not agree more. The look of this is actually very impressive, but it's something that I think it's something that's capturing these sort of morals that you're going into, these tales. There's something that you're gaining. It's not as overt in the original series. I think that it is pulled back a little bit, and that was something when I revisited the series maybe 20 years ago, that I was struck by how it didn't rub up against me as much when I was a kid than when I saw these things. And it was like, oh, this is literally like I'm in Sunday school. I had no clue that while I was watching this, I didn't realize I was watching Veggie Tales or something like that.
Right. Yeah. It's funny in hindsight watching them again. Yeah. It's definitely some strong, yeah.
It's there. And I feel like you have elements of that here, but it's not as, I haven't read the books, but from my understanding, it's something that is a little bit closer and truer to how the books were. It's an element of the frontier life, but it wasn't the sole focus of that life.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a much more prevalent, religion was a much more prevalent force, in life, I guess. Yeah. And it was, and I suppose when you're pioneering and, and exploring a country that no one of your culture has stepped into before, then I suppose there is a lot of comfort to be taken from believing in a greater, good that's compelling you. I guess I don't know. I'm not super religious,
Nor am I.
but yeah. So it was nice to see that it wasn't the prevailing through story, to push religion on everything. But it's also nice that it's there and it's not apologized for nor denied, like happens a lot these days. And then the Indigenous story, of course, is something that was very important to Rebecca and the other writers, and how all that displacement that took place, really uprooted, entire nations, and it was always a story that was very conveniently set aside in the previous tellings of the show. So it's I'm glad that that's happened. I was lucky enough when we were shooting to have time to sit aside with one of our Osage advisors, and to say, look, like my family was one of the ones in the 1800s that would have been displacing your family.
Yeah.
So it was nice to sort of be able to come to terms with that and confront it and apologize in a way for it, and try to make some amends anyway for all the
Well,
mistakes of the past.
that's kind of the first step in that, isn't it? To me, at least, that it's you have to recognize the brutal honesty of the history, and then you can move through it. But we're at this time now where there's a lot of denial and pushing back against our history, and I think you lose so much when you don't tell the full story. And you can, if you're unwilling to look back and fully embrace all the ugly parts, I don't think you fully appreciate the beauty that you can see in modern day life or contemporary
100%.
times. And it helps to contextualize and understand other cultures.
It does, and there was I remember doing Project Blue Book years ago, and we were doing a classroom sequence, and it was taking place in 1953, right?
Yeah.
And we're bringing the extra, we were lit, we're bringing the background performers in and stuff. And it's this super diverse group of kids, for these students.
Sure.
So I'm like, so now we have Chinese kids, Asian kids, and African American kids. And I'm like, I said, this is wrong, for the time period. This was a time when Black kids were laying their lives on the line for the very right to step through the doors of an institution like this. And to bring this sort of woke, I hate to say that, but this sort of convenient group of background performers in is an insult to the lives of the people that sacrificed so much to get where we are today. Anyway, but that's a whole other.
No. I mean, I agree. I think it's important though, because it's that thing that we try to tell a modern, it's easy for people that are my age to look back and to not remember that my dad, who's just one generation behind me, went to a segregated high school, that he never had class with anybody that wasn't white. That was his existence all the way up until he was in college. The first time that he had class with a Black person was when he was in college, which to me is crazy, but it's not that far removed. That's our very immediate past. So if we can't confront that, then I think we're doing a disservice.
Absolutely. Denying it is the wrong way.
So then, how has the response been to the show so far? Because it's been, everything that I've seen is pretty high praise that you're getting for this show, which is phenomenal because you work on a lot of things, and to have one that really does seem to land and resonate is always, I assume, a gift on top of a gift.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tend to, I look a little bit at what press is saying, when a show first drops, but then it just becomes so much that I'm like, I can't delve in it. But I'm delighted with the response to it. I was nervous that it would be perceived as this apologetic, woke reimagining of it. That and there were rumblings of that. I remember when it first dropped, but they seem to have quieted down a little bit once people have taken the time to watch the show and realize that it's not an apology. It's just a retelling of realities back then. So I'm delighted with that people are taking it seriously and not confusing it with the original show, but finding it seems like it's found its place alongside the original show in people's hearts, I guess, and that's rewarding, I think.
Well, it's something I don't think it's trying to me, the original show doesn't go away. Here
Yeah,
we are, 50 years later, you can still find it, you can still watch it, you can still revisit it.
yeah,
And I think it's good to, I mean, we're in a retelling of the Odyssey is one of the biggest things that's out there right now. You can have a different point of view on that story and tell a contemporary story through these tales that we've had for a long time. And
yeah.
oddly enough, you're telling something that's very contemporary while being more honest to the source material, which is very unusual that we kind of, the original deviation was 50 years ago,
Right.
not,
Yeah,
at this point in time. So,
yeah. It's interesting. It's sort of how history repeats itself, isn't it? A little bit, and but yeah.
so then what is it that you look for when you're deciding to take on a project? Because I look through everything and there's not many people that have champions and best Christmas pageant ever in their
Right.
filmography. So I like when I put those side by side, but I actually love that. And something like Still or all these projects that you've
Right.
worked on where you've had these things that are all, they run the gamut, where you have
Yeah.
these very close, tight personal stories as well as things that are very broad and big. And
Right.
you've done action set pieces. So like, what is it that drives you to take on a project?
I don't know if it's any particular agenda. I respond to the material when I have a look at it. I'm very script oriented. I'm also lucky enough that the people I work with tend to remember me, and I get like, for example, you mentioned Still and Champions. Both were produced by Drew Locke, and Drew was like, "Hey, we had such a great time on Champions. Why don't you come out and do this Still thing?" And I'm like, "I don't do documentaries, but you never know what you're going to get." And I think that's the sort of one of the great joys of doing this is that you never, I've learned not to turn away from anything before reading it and giving it a chance. And yeah, it's really material based for me. If there's something interesting in the writing is a big thing for me.
Mhm.
I tend to roll my eyes a lot when reading scripts.
Sure.
So if I find I'm not doing that, then it's we're on the right path.
Well, writing a script, a good screenplay, is incredibly difficult.
Oh yeah,
I think people would be shocked to see how many really, truly bad scripts there are that float around. Has
it's
there
true.
been anything that you rolled your eyes at that you saw the final product and said, "Oh, I missed it"?
Yes,
My
yes, lots
reaction
and
was,
lots.
"Okay,
Yeah, yeah. It's usually comedy scripts. I
okay,
always shoot myself in the foot with comedy scripts. What was the one? Oh gosh, I can't remember the title of it, but I remember reading the script and the first 10 pages laughing out loud, thinking this is a really funny movie. But then after it kind of went on and on a little bit, it just got to be a little bit much of a muchness. But it's hard to read comedy. It really is. It
yeah,
doesn't live on the page. Comedy lives
no,
in the performances, and at that particular time, I had a hard time sort of differentiating the two, and I passed on that show. And I remember I had done Welcome to Marwin, and
yeah, of course,
Marwin had a troubling time in the box office, to say the least, and this movie that I passed on, every time I went to the theater, there it was, still playing, still number one in the box office for 13 weeks or whatever the heck it was. And thinking, why did I, so yeah, there's all sorts of shows that I wish I'd done. There's there's shows that I really liked and then botched the interview and so yeah. Anyway, you never know what's going to happen next.
So, well, the interview for it, how does that process go? What are you talking about during that? I mean, people can look at your work now that you've worked for so long and they can get an
Yeah,
idea of what you can do. So,
yeah,
but then when you're sitting down face to face, how do you sell yourself in that moment? That's got to be challenging in the same way that comedy, it doesn't jump off the page necessarily. An
yeah,
image
yeah.
doesn't jump out of your mouth at the same
Right. Yeah,
time.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. I think I'm looking for like I've been lucky enough to keep working and have a fairly consistent have had a fairly consistent time of it. So I have the luxury of being able to pick projects a little more carefully. And I think what I'm looking for is relationships rather than actually trying to get myself on a show. I'm like,
Sure.
I think the interview process for me is kind of a two-way street where I'm kind of exploring what the director and the producers are saying and how they're talking and what their body language is too, to see if this is a group of people that I think I want to, go into the trenches with for 9 months or 10 months or whatever it is. So in addition to the material, I think it's really the interview for me is exploring the first kind of breaths of that relationship and trying to get a sense of how this is going to be. I'd like to think that the work is the work, and the shows that I'm interviewing on, I think you can take for granted that whoever's being interviewed is going to be able to deliver the product in one way or another. So
Sure.
I tend to make it less about that and more about how are we going to work together to really bring something to life, So
Well, there's that, all things being equal, I guess, that there's two people that are just as competent as one another. Who's the person you want to hang out with? On a 14-hour day, who's the person that's not going to be driving you crazy?
Exactly.
That's really, really important. In fact, it might be you could probably shave a few points off of talent just to go, I don't want to work with an asshole. This person might do the job as well as anybody in the business, but you know what? In the end, it's not worth it. I just want to work with people I like.
Yeah, life's too short, and I think there's a time for that. I think there's a time to be,
of course,
to put up with that to as you're building your career and finding your way. I think you definitely have to explore all the different personality types, and sometimes the personalities that you have a big conflict with at the beginning turn out to be some of the best ones. So it's it's always a moving target.
We kind of have to find it's when you work with people multiple times, you come up with a shorthand and you're able to. And sometimes when you butt heads at first, it's because you don't know how to communicate with each other and you're just learning. It's why the first 7 years of marriage are the most difficult, because you don't know how to communicate with each other yet. But, once you got 10, 15, 25, 30 years into it, you know what the important fights are to have at that point, and you know where to let go.
100%. There's a director that I've worked with for years named Ron Oliver, who lives in Palm Springs, and Ron and his husband Eric are our daughter's fairy godfathers, they call themselves. But anyway, they Ron and I were doing a movie once in Halifax or somewhere, and we had a camera operator that I knew, but that hadn't worked with the two of us together. And by this time, I think Ron and I had done 10 or 12 movies together, and we had like you say, we had a shorthand, and we would block a scene, and Trevor, the operator, would be standing there, and Ron would look at me and go, "Oh, so is it here?" And then, and I'd be like, "Yeah, let's do that." And then we'd all, go back to the monitor, and Trevor would be like, "Sorry, guys, I just need, I need to. What are we doing?" Like, yeah. So yes, the shorthand is great, and working with people that you enjoy spending time with is really the ultimate goal. Yeah,
absolutely. If you're going to take away time from your home life, then it's good to spend that with people that you care about in that time. Yeah. So, is there anything you haven't done that you want to do at this point?
I'd like to do more horror. Ironically, it's the one thing that's sort of been elusive. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy watching it. And horror is the thing for me. Like, even if it's just dirty, indie stuff, all the way to, I gravitate towards darker stuff, I think, which is interesting because everything I've been doing lately has not gone that way.
Sure.
But yeah, horror is fun, and more theatrical stuff. I think more character driven stuff, I think is also kind of compelling, but you never know what's coming down the road. So, I mean, I'm doing second unit on a video game show right now, and it's great to be home because it's in Vancouver, and the trade-off was going back to Little House for season 2 and being away again, versus doing second unit on this show. And I hadn't done a big second unit gig before, so it was kind of new. So it was a new, maybe a new challenge. Being home was a big attractant. And of course they were greenlit long before Little House was, so I kind of had to make a choice. I regret not going back to Little House. I think it'd be a lot of fun to be. They're almost halfway done season 2. So I miss being there, but it's nice to be home and trying something different, But yeah.
Love that. Well, I mean, there's a horror movie that's if you put that out there
Yeah.
and say that enough times, you'll be able to land on that if the material.
Yeah.
I assume it would have to be something that would grab you, but it seems like
Yeah.
there's no shortage of horror films being made right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just great. And I think it was 2022. I think I was down in LA doing Brother's Son. And that summer, it
By
didn't
the way,
matter what it was.
Brother's Son. I really love that. By the way.
Oh, right on.
So yeah,
A lot of fun.
great little series. So yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
you keep going.
No, it was just that year, A24 could not put out a bad movie. It was just show after show. I was just like, these guys are who I want to work for,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
But that's been elusive. So we'll see what happens next.
Well, I mean, maybe you can sometimes meld those worlds together, those things that you're talking about, where you can have just a small character drama. And some of the scariest things I can imagine, the horror films or the thrillers or the movies that really impact me are 4 people sitting in a room talking sometimes. And it just can floor you. And those are the ones that, like, how do you make something that's like a black box theater visually interesting? And I love those kinds of films. So
Absolutely. It gives you so many more. It's like one of the things that I always try to do is make the cinematography as transparent as possible so that the audience can just, enjoy the story. And when you're in a situation like that, where it's a very confined space or a very confined storyline, it forces you to be true, to the writing and true to the performances, and not distract with camera work. So yeah. So that's really cool. I mean, right now, this second unit gig is the exact opposite of that, where we're just anyway. But that's a whole other story. But yeah, but it's fun. It's great. I'm home, and it's good.
There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes work is just that. I mean, it's a job. It's a thing. You have a new muscle that you're building by doing that kind of stuff, and that's really good to get that experience. So, what's anything coming down on the horizon rather that you're looking forward to?
Not really. I've been so absorbed in this thing that I haven't really been, paying attention. No, there's a couple of things in development from some friends of mine that look like they're coming together, but those are always nebulous until
they happen.
Until you're at the wrap party. But yeah, no, it's just that's one step at a time right now, and this thing is running until the middle of December, and now they're talking about maybe continuing it till the end of March. So it's
wow, that's a long shoot.
Yeah, we've been going since the end of February, so it's it's a while. Yeah,
I had no idea. I know nothing about video games and the way they're made for that.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, it's a TV show based, or it's a Netflix or no HBO thing based on a video game, but it's.
I see what you're. That makes more sense. Okay, I was
But no, you know what? That would be fun though. Doing
because I know they do motion capture and stuff, but I couldn't imagine that it would have gone for that. Now, okay, cool, that's exciting.
Well, I remember when we did Marwin, Welcome to Marwin, we did a lot of pre-visualization in Unreal Engine and that sort of thing. And at that point, I thought, this would be really fun to get into lighting animation. Like I think Roger and James Deakins do a little bit of that with Disney, and I think that'd be a lot of fun, to sit in spaces, in virtual spaces, and sort of be able to light things in a way that you never could before. When you have, when you're able to put light sources right in the frame and then just erase them. I think that'd be super fun. We got partway there when we did Lost Ollie, because I had a hugely tight relationship with the visual effects folks that were animating the characters in that show. So that was the closest I've gotten to that, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
The thing that worries me about that, it's sometimes the things that make incredible images, beautiful images, are oftentimes the limitations that you have. It's being pushed into a corner, and it's when you have literally, you can do anything you want. You can set this wherever you want. You can do whatever you want with the lighting, and all you have to do, it's a couple of keystrokes away. Yeah. That can, I think, limitless can actually be something that holds you back, I think, for 100%. Creating something that's better. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, you're eliminating the Conrad Hall's Happy Accidents, right? Those go away
Exactly.
when you're creating everything. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
way that it was put to me a long time ago, and I've always held on to this, was sometimes the broken nose is the thing that makes somebody handsome. And so it's just, you can
yeah,
have these little imperfections that you as the artist will look back at and say, God,
yeah,
I wish I could go back and fix that. But then
yeah,
everybody will say, no, absolutely not. Don't go back and fix that. That's the thing I love about it.
yeah,
So yeah, and
yeah.
that wall of movies that's back behind me,
That's
there's a
great.
lot of imperfection in there, and I love every
Yeah,
one of them. So
yeah. Absolutely, it's what gives it character, right? That's the
yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank
Absolutely.
you so much for taking the time to do this, Kim, and congratulations on
Oh,
the
thank you.
series. Can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next. So, yeah, whatever this thing is that's taken up almost a full year of your life, I'm excited.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Well, no, well, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I've been enjoying your episodes, so looking forward to listening to more.
all right, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a
Okay,
great
all
week.
right.
Thank you.
You too.
Take
All right,
care.
take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.